Welcome to the weekly shir of the Zera Shimshon. I almost forgot to do this week. I'm sorry. So I'm going to do it quickly and in English, so I can do this before we can light the candles. Hopefully everybody will have enough from it. By the way, today is Chav Gimel Tammuz, and it's Tavshin Pei Beis. It's Parshat Matos Massei in Eretz Yisrael, and it's also the yahrzeit from the holy Moshe Koidaviro, who wrote the Pardes Rimainim and Taimer Devora and others for him. He was the biggest Makubal before the Arizal, so he's very famous, and a lot of people have his Svarim. So I'm going to say from the Zera Shimshon so that everybody have a school. Okay, 3 and 3. It's Shalosh Eorim Titnu Me'ever LaYarden. The 3 cities you shall dedicate from the other side of the Jordan. Ve'ishalosh Eorim Titnu Be'eretz Canaan. And the 3 cities you shall designate in the land of Canaan, which is Eretz Yisrael. Then Eretz Ari Miklat Tieno. These shall be cities of refuge for people who kill by mistake. Okay, so the Gemara tells us that Moshe set aside 3 cities on the eastern side of the Jordan River, and Yeshua set aside another 3 in the land of Canaan. That's the Gemara in Matos Daf Nun Daf Tes Omid Beis. The Gemara goes on to ask how the Jewish nation could possibly need the same number of cities in the Avrahayar over the Jordan as they needed in Eretz Yisrael itself. Weren't there more people in Eretz Yisrael than over the Jordan? Who lived across the Jordan? 2.5 tribes. Okay, who lived in Eretz Yisrael? 9.5 tribes. So why the same number of cities on each side of the Jordan? The Gemara answers that there were a lot of murderers in the city of Gilad on the other side of the Jordan, which necessitated more cities for less people. The Tosfos explains the Gemara's answer by quoting another Gemara in Makkos Daf 10 Yud Omid Beis. It says that when there are people who kill others on purpose, but there are no witnesses and they cannot be put to death, Hashem arranges for murderers to be in their place, in a certain place where He causes them to be put to death. Many commentaries struggle with this Tosfos. On the surface, the Gemara's explanation doesn't seem to help us out. What does the fact that there are people in Gilad who kill on purpose have to do with there being so many cities of refuge, or people who killed by mistake? Our original question still stands. So why did the Torah command the Jews to set up the same number of cities of refuge across the Jordan, where 2.5 tribes lived, as in Eretz Yisrael, which is only home to 9.5 tribes? One answer is the following. There are 2 types of people who kill by mistake. There are people who kill b'shogeg, by mistake, inadvertently, who were seen by witnesses, and they are immediately sent to the Ori Miklat, the cities of refuge. Others are killed unintentionally without witnesses. And since no one saw what they did, they are not forced to escape to the cities of refuge. About the second kind of person, the Gemara tells us that Hashem arranges for the unintentional murderer to kill someone who murdered with intent, but without witnesses. This time, the unintentional murder is witnessed. The outcome is the intentional murderer gets killed. The unintentional murderer now has to flee to a city of refuge. This means that in order for the unintentional murder without witnesses to run away to the city of refuge, there needs to be someone around who sinned and who deserve to die. When that happens, Hashem can arrange it for that person to be killed through the hands of an unintentional murderer. He will now kill the intentional murderer without intent. But this time the murderer will be seen by witnesses, which will cause him to have to run away. Keeping all this in mind, the Gemara's answer, according to Tosfos' reasoning, makes a lot of sense. It is true that there are more people in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore statistically more murderers than across the Jordan. But since there are many people who kill unintentionally without witnesses, they will only go into exile when Hashem arranges for them to end up in the same place with a real murderer whose murder was not witnessed. And since across the Jordan there are a lot of people who kill intentionally, Hashem arranges for all the people who killed by mistake to end up with all the people who kill on purpose, who are then killed by unintentional killers. So this is why there is such a great need for cities of refuge across the Jordan. That's from the Zera Shimshon and it's actually in Parshat Eschanan, but it's, there was a few places in the Torah where it mentions Ori Miklat, and this is Massei is one of them, and another one is Eschanan. The Segula, the Zera Shimshon. There are numerous shiurim in Zera Shimshon taking place on a regular basis, many of them on Thursday night. Rabbi Mordechai Zilberberg, the brother of Yisrael Zilberberg, is a Maggid Shir in one of these shiurim, which takes place in a base midrash called Har Tzvi in Yerushalayim. Rabbi Mordechai told the following story at the beginning of his shir in Parshat Matos Massei. I was recently approached by a friend of mine who wanted to tell me a story. He began. He was very emotional as he related to me that since I started giving shiurim in Zera Shimshon, he had wanted to share a story that was connected with learning the Sefer, and he wanted me to spread it around as much as possible. This is the story he told me. One of his family members had been going out for many years without results. Of course, this turn of events caused the entire family no small amount of pain, and they gave a lot of thought to what they could do to help alleviate the situation. In the end, my friend, along with another of the brothers-in-law, decided that they would begin learning Zera Shimshon regularly, with the hope that their learning would serve as a schus for a shidduch b'karev. 3 weeks later, their brother-in-law got engaged. But this is not a normal shidduch. This was a shidduch that had been in works for a year already. Many shadchanim tried to make it happen from different directions, but without success. The shidduch had never been turned on completely, but everyone involved had pretty much given up hope of seeing these two people making it to the chuppah. And then, just after two brothers-in-law started learning Zera Shimshon, something happened. Something literally out of this world. And it was as if all the walls had been standing in the way came crashing down. Suddenly, all the problems, quote-unquote, that had been seen as obstacles until that point dissipated. And they were able to become chas nekala with no more impediments. It was fantastic and unexpected. It was a fantastic and unexpected turn of events. And there was nothing to blame it on other than one thing, the schus that came from the learning the Zera Shimshon. As someone who knows this story in the most personal way, the friend concluded, please believe me that when I tell you that the fact that this boy and girl are now engaged is simply a miracle. All right, everyone have a wonderful Shabbos and enjoy the wonderful beauty of Shabbos and the Kiddush of Shabbos, and eat and drink l'shem Kiddush Shabbos. Kol tov zaygebetz.